And I'll just jump in. You were elected to the House in '94, right?
Yeah. And
why did you run? Why did you decide to run at that time?
Well, it's a little bit of a story, the interesting story. I had not had any thoughts about getting involved in politics. Dr. Gene Byers was our representative and had been for a number of years. And Gene was a veterinarian, a great veterinarian, but also a businessman, and understood that to be in business, especially a small business, you need to make a profit. And I thought that when he was in Columbus representing us, that a lot of his effort was devoted to making sure that the Columbus people realized that profit was critical to survival for small business. You can imagine how that impacted on me with my family and especially my sons working with me, that our small business, we had the automobile dealerships. And so as a result, I made contributions to Gene when he was running for re-election, and he always won by a good majority. And unfortunately, Gene had a stroke here in Columbus. And then he wrote all of us that had been supporters of his, and good friends too. He wrote all of us a letter that said that it was just impossible for him to continue. He was going to have to come back home. His wife Marilyn was a county commissioner, and spend more time with her and the family, and he and his son owned the veterinarian clinic in Loudonville, and in the letter indicate he would try to be involved with the clinic. And so that, you can imagine, shook up that north central Ohio town of Ashland, thinking that Gene Byers was not going to be representing us. And so I was very much involved, myself and Tom Sudden, that's the Director of Development now for Ashland University, but at that time was the General Manager of Archway Cookies. We're working to reestablish the Ashland Chamber and get small business people working in the chamber, again, communicating how important small business was and how important profit was for survival, and how important it was that it impacted on jobs in north central Ohio. And we were fortunate to do a really good business in Richland County, a lot due to the reason that the General Motors plant, stamping plant, was in Richland County. So with Tom and I working on that, and as you can imagine, a couple of people said, well, Harris, aren't you going to get involved in this run for office? And I said, no, I'm having too much fun with working in the family business with my family, my sons. My wife was involved. In fact, she was the person that handled all the, if a person was not satisfied with how they were treated, she was the one that they talked to. So as I really, literally, after spending over 23 years in the Marine Corps, I was excited about being able to be in a family business and do that. And so then a few more people said, and they started more talking, and then I started thinking, when I saw the people that were taking out petitions to run for Gene's position in the legislature, and I thought, gosh, these are great people, but none of them have ever made a payroll. And so how are they going to understand the difficulties of small business? So that I talked to my wife and I talked to my sons. Well, my sons, you could imagine, I made it a policy to pay them a bonus if they perform well at the end of each year, and they bought a little bit of stock in the companies from those bonuses. And right away they said, yeah, Dad, you ought to get involved in that thing, get me out of the way. And then the people at town started saying, look, Harris, your sons can run those companies probably better than you can if you just get out of the way. So then I talked to my wife, and she said, well, you'll have to decide what you want to do. If you think you're interested, then I'm sure you can do it. So to make a long story short, we prayed about it a lot, and to the point that she and I went out to Phoenix I was at that time the Buick, the national Buick dealer representative to Detroit for the Buick Motor Car Division, and we went to Phoenix, and so I thought, well, I'll be gone, and then by the time I get back, there'll be some other people that I'd talk to and said, why don't you run for this? I need to be with my business. And when we got back, there was only, I think, 3 or 4 days left for the filing date, and I thought by that time everybody would get their names in. Well, I got back and it was the same people. There were 4 people that had filed, and there were the same ones that had been talking about running. And again, they were nice people, good people, but I really questioned their not ever making a payroll, how they were going to relate to what the struggles were for small business, and especially from a political point of view. So, and you know, my experience in the Marine Corps, I understood the politics of the Marine Corps of trying to get monies to run our projects, and as you know, being involved in the intelligence business for about 98% of my career, then I had the chance to negotiate in Washington a couple of times with trying to grow the Marine Corps intelligence, because it was critical to saving Marines' lives. And I had that background, but that was the only background that I had. And so when I got back and saw that nobody else had applied, then my wife and I said, well, that must be the Lord saying that you ought to do this. So I went down and got the application and went to a meeting that night and got enough signatures to file, and filed. And you know, that it was 93rd House District, and was a very very positive Republican district. So it was obvious that whoever Republican won the primary was going to end up being the one that won the election. And but I wasn't really paying as much attention as I should have, because I knew the people in Ashland that were filing, but I hadn't paid much attention to the people in the rest of the district. And that district at the time included Knox County, and included Ashland County, and the southern portion to include Willard and Greenwich in Huron County. And just so happened that the lady that was a very popular school board member and so forth in Knox County had applied and had been the choice of the Republican Party in Knox County. My experience in Knox County is we sold a lot of cars. People lived in Knox County, so I had some contact. So when I went to Knox County, and that's the home, as you know, of the Kokosing Construction Company and the Burgett family. So of course I went down and talked to them and said, hey, I'm here, I'm going to run, and I'd like to get elected to be your representative. And they said, well, Bill, we've already selected Margie Bennett. And she taught at the PhD, she and her husband both, and in fact he had been in the Marine Corps when they first got married, and she you know, she had a good reputation, and had been involved. And so I ended up getting a commitment that if I won the primary, they'd support me, but they'd already committed to support Margie. So I had to work hard. There were actually 5 of us ended up out of the one that really ran,